Welcome you to the New Orleans Tourism and Cultural Foundation's Elevation Series number 3. We are very excited to have you join us. We have 3090 who will be facilitating for us this evening on a marketing plan, which is very key. So many of our artists here in the city of New Orleans has culture that is second to none. However, what we find is there are often times that the hidden treasures that we have are not as well known due to the fact that we may not market ourselves in that manner. And sometimes we say, well, hey, I'm great at singing, but what I'm not sure about the marketing. Well, we're here this evening to continue to build everyone up, including ourselves at NOTCF, to a well-rounded standpoint so that we're able to market ourselves so people are able to know who all of you are, what you do, and what great talents and business that you provide to share with others. So without further ado, I'd like to just acknowledge the NOTCF team as well that's on board. If everyone will just wave or what have you. But we have Tiffany, Jana, Clairvay, Catherine, Abby. We have a great team on board. And as people are still coming in, I was really just filtering that aspect. But I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening because without you, the culture, the work that we do would not be as fruitful and as impactful. And I want you to know that as we are November 18th, we have really had a fabulous year and we still have more programming to come. But in this year, we have awarded several grants. We have supported and partnered in so many partnerships, and there are still opportunity to partner or work with each of you who are on our Elevation series this evening as well. So it is 6:04, and we were just allowing everyone to continue to join in. But what I'll do is turn it over to Rachel Ledet. I hope I pronounced the last name correct. And have Rachel facilitate for us. Welcome, Rachel, and we're very excited to have you facilitating for us.
Well, thank you very much. I love that more people are jumping on. I'm kind of watching the numbers at the bottom. So I would like to have a little bit of correspondence with our audience as we go. So I'm going to share screen and also open the chat because I want a little bit of feedback of the types of folks that we have in the room. So I'm going to see if I can get this to all, do the technology thing and get it in the correct manner for presenting. And while I'm doing that, I do want to just introduce myself. As Lisa said, I'm Rachel Ledet with 3090 Marketing. We are a women-owned marketing agency founded in New Orleans. We just opened our first official office on Metairie Road, and our team is sort of a hybrid team of people working at home and in our office. So let's see, I'm trying to pull up. I was emailing with Jorge earlier and trying to make sure that this would all be nice and tidy. So let me get the PDF version so I make sure that it's correct. There we go.
And while we're setting up for it all, one marketing commercial we'll throw in there at this time. New Orleans Tourism and Cultural Foundation will be hosting its fourth annual gala, January 9th, 2026, at Mardi Gras World. Tickets are now on sale. Just join us at notcf.com and you will be truly enlightened by joining us on next year for our honors gala. And we see that the screen is up and ready. So this concludes the first commercial.
Thank you so much. I love the commercial break. That's great. So we are going to be talking tonight about taking cultural businesses and artists and musicians and people who are contributing to culture and actually monetizing it so that you have not just a skill set but something that is really marketable and sellable, because having something wonderful but not being able to sell it effectively really hinders the entrepreneur. And I also want to be careful about the balance between historical preservation of various cultures, because they do come from neighborhood backgrounds, family backgrounds, Indian backgrounds. There's all these legacies, and it's important that the brands that you build do continue to feel authentic to you, whether you are opening a finance firm or you're a musician. No matter what type of business you have, it should feel authentic to the owner and the team. And that's just the same with any culturally based businesses, because it has to be real and it has to connect kind of with your heart and soul for it to make sense and for it to be sellable. So that's the first caveat. The second thing is that having a marketing plan means that you are able to put your products or services out into the world and actually make money out of it. I do a lot of work in the economic development sector, and I think that it's important to not just share the culture of New Orleans so that people can appreciate it. It is what makes our city special and different from other places in the country, but also I think it's important that people here can experience financial freedom and business ownership and actually monetize their skills so that they can support themselves financially and their families. And so that's where I like to sort of combine the art and the science of how marketing yourself well can make a difference. So today's topic is From Culture to Commerce, your first marketing plan. And I think I can look at the chat in the same time, but out of our audience today, I would like to just gauge how many people are a musician or in the musical industry. If you could just put an M in the chat. And then how many people are artists or artisans? And if you could put an A in the chat. And then if you are involved with any of the Indian traditions, whether it's baby dolls or Indians or beading or black masking, if you can put an I in the chat. And then if it's something that I haven't touched on, you could just put an O for other. So if you're able to, I'd like to just see kind of a mix of what the audience here today is made up of. And Lisa, I don't know if I can see the chat at the same time my screen is up, but can you see if there's anything clicking through?
It's a lot of
Absolutely.
feedback.
Yes.
I'm trying
Go.
We have
to.
musicians, we have visual
Mm-hmm.
artists, art, other. If you can drop what your other sector
Yeah,
is with
tell
the art,
us.
we would please love to know that. Yeah, a lot of
And we
others.
have you. What's the you?
What
No,
was
what's
you?
you?
Janique is you.
I wonder why it as the host. Oh wait, maybe it lets me see the chat. Oh, there it is.
Okay, we got hair care lines in the building,
Okay.
skincare. Come on, estheticians.
Beauty
Okay,
care. Yep.
interesting.
Hi, spy, but look at Horace in the chat.
Okay. I have to look at my side screen to see y'all. I'm not looking at y'all, but I have to look over here. So art and some music, visual art, other,
Mm-hmm.
which I am curious, Alondra, Heaven, Ingrid.
We have an
So
Indian.
Ingrid, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Freelance marketing creative is Heaven. Okay, great. And then education, Black history, curriculum. Okay. So some different things. Um, writer and juice bar. Okay.
Ah. Mm-hmm.
Whoever Zoom is, I feel like you're being like secretive. Like we're gonna have to figure out who you are. You might have to tell us. Okay, that's great. I just like to sort of see what's going on because that helps me understand if you're a product or a service, because they do sell a little differently. So, as a marketing firm, we kind of sell graphic design projects and things like that. So in a way, it's a product, but really we're a service-based industry and we work for businesses. So for us, it's a little bit different. The framing of your conversation, though, is going to be very similar. So our talk today is going to be framing the conversation, defining your brand story. That's where the authenticity piece comes in, understanding your audience and goals, building your marketing toolkit, and then putting it all together. So I would like to this is a very simple approach. This works for big businesses, small businesses, all the different businesses that just came into the chat. Starting simple and just being really clear about what you want to do is really the path to get there. So I want to break it down. We will definitely have Q&A at the end, but I'd like to just walk you through sort of the basics of getting your marketing plan started. So framing the conversation. We just did the poll of who's in the room, and I want to share why I think marketing matters, because NOTCF says that their mission and their vision is really to strengthen the culture bearers of New Orleans and give them resources so that they can live to the city's traditions, and then also help with skill building and turning goods and services in all these places in our city into a cultural economy, which to me means taking all the good stuff and making money to make lives better. That's what it means to me. And so what I think the important part, as I mentioned when I was introducing myself, is I want people's businesses to do well so that A, can celebrate the things that they have passions and skills for, but B, so that they can have a beautiful life and support their family and take a vacation and go out to eat at good restaurants in the city. Because if we can't enjoy the place that we live, then we're just sort of breathing the space and we're not getting to enjoy this rich tradition, and having some financial independence gets us there. And so that's sort of where my passion is with working with small businesses. So what having good marketing means: it means your product or service is sellable. It means you're making money. It means you're contributing to your community and supporting your family, and that you're keeping some amount of tradition alive, especially if it's something you did learn from your family or it came from your community. You're actually helping to perpetuate something that has some historical significance. So that's what marketing your businesses means in my words. So the first thing is to define your brand story. And I wanted to just tell you a little bit about my brand story. So I am a marketing agency. We do a lot of work with people who are involved in economic development, specifically on construction, architecture and engineering, some visual sort of design elements, and also event marketing. And so one of the projects that I got to work on a few years ago was some specific marketing to help a nonprofit that was focused on getting kind of a booking and placement for Indians in different areas of St. Charles Parish. So through doing that, I was able to meet with Billy Nungesser, meet with Parish President Matt Jewell. I don't know if you all know Eric B., but he's really well known. That's him in the red Indian costume. And he and I have had some great planning conversations and some great times together talking about events. And he's helped me understand a lot about the culture and a lot about the business side of the culture. And then Amanda Shaw, who's pretty well known in Louisiana. But I just wanted to bring this up to show that not only do we do marketing for bigger businesses, but that we want to work with the whole brand building and telling stories with impact that affect culture and economy and make our state a better place to live. And so this is our vision statement at 3090, because we want people who've never met us, that they come to our website to understand who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. And so I'll just read it. We empower communities and organizations through dynamic storytelling, bold branding, and high impact campaigns that spark investment. That means bring your dollars here, attract talent. To us, that means help people in workforce development build great lives and drive community growth. From strategic positioning to event planning, our work builds awareness, strengthens identity, and fosters meaningful connections that shape the future of thriving communities. And that's why when I met with NOTCF maybe 2 months or so ago, I said, how can I help? Because culture is part of economic development, and it is what we're trying to help assist. And it is a conversation that we want to be in. And so very graciously, NOTCF said, let's figure out how we can get you plugged in. And so that's a little bit about me and my background and some things I've learned about in the last few years with cultural economy. And of course, it's a learning process for anyone who's new to it, but the paths of creating a business around it are pretty similar. So I want to just show a few pictures of our team doing some work in and around the city. We did a habitat day. We had a great time. I don't know that we were the best builders, but we had a really great time working on the back of a house, and we try to be involved in our community. The center picture is our team working on a strategy session this summer where we came together to talk about our future. And then the picture to the left is the Louisiana Firehouse Project. That is a historic building on Louisiana that is being redeveloped by People's Housing Plus, which is one of our clients, and affordable housing and historic renovations are two really big passion areas for our firm. So this is right before the renovations were starting, and we did some press conferences there to help pass the Housing Trust Fund that helps affordable housing, and it passed after our events. So we feel pretty excited about that. So just kind of how we're plugging into the community. We don't want to just work here. We want to be part of thriving communities is our tagline, but it's also true. And so now that you know a little bit about me, I want you to think a little bit about what makes you you. And starting from a place of definition of culture versus brand, because they're not the same, but you're in a unique position where you can blend them. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about culture as a system of beliefs, values, customs, behaviors that bind people together and also have shared experiences and interactions. So that is sort of a quick definition of culture. And then brand is really what outside people think about your company or you as a product, if you are a musician or an artist, and what their perception is of you. And so having intentional strategy to take your value system and then express it in a way that people can have an understanding of you to want to engage with you is what your brand is. And so you're in a unique position where you are trying to really kind of blend the two, because culture part is sort of the interesting part, the you part. And then the brand is how do you interact as a business version of that. And I don't necessarily think those are the same thing, but I do think that they interact really closely and carefully, especially if you do it well. So I want to allow everyone to just take a minute to think about a one-line statement that says who you are, what you offer, and why it matters. And so I want to just give you kind of our one-liner, and then I'm going to flip to the next slide and just give you a second to maybe jot down some notes. So at 3090 Marketing, we are a strategic marketing and storytelling firm. We blend traditional tools and digital tools to elevate brands and amplify impact. And we want our clients to build thriving projects and have these businesses reach their business goals. That is who we are, what we offer, and why we think it matters. Because when our businesses can succeed, then they're able to do greater things for their communities and for their employees. So that is sort of the quick recap, kind of the elevator speech, if you've heard that statement before, of our one-liner. So I'm going to take a 1-minute pause. And if you have a pen and paper or have a note up on your computer, if you just want to jot down who you are, what you offer, and why it matters. And then if you feel like you might want to share it, no one's in the hot seat, but if you feel like you want to share it or share one of the parts of that, you can drop it into the chat, and that way we can share it with the group. And I just shared mine, so there's no right or wrong answer here, but I would love for you to just take a moment to think about really simply, like, one little sentence or phrase for each one of those. Does anybody have a who you are that they would like to share? Chanel's gonna volunteer. I was actually going to Ingrid shared her Little Faith, Big Results hair growth products. I would venture to say what she offers as hair growth products. And I don't know why it matters, but I'd love for her to say why she thinks it matters to her customers.
Can I say it instead of type it, if that's okay?
Yes, go ahead, tell me.
Okay, so my name is Ingrid Jones. I'm with Little Faith Big Results. We focus on hair growth, and our focus is restoring hair after any type of loss. And we stand behind Matthew 17:20, faith the size of a mustard seed move mountains. So not only do we help your hair grow, but we also encourage your faith with God.
That's great. Okay, so you have some of your value system and why it matters. So if I'm your customer and I have hair growth needs, which by the way, I also had some hair trauma a few years ago. So I completely empathize with those people who might have issues with certain things like that. Um, why does it matter? If you help a customer and offer something to someone to buy something, what's the end result for them? What is that why it matters for your customer?
The end results will be big results because we will restore your hair from any type of trauma that you may have had with alopecia, dry scalp, itchy scalp, male baldness, or anything like that.
There's some probably
Mhm.
beautification outcome and also probably confidence and kind of like some health healing too, it sounds like.
Yes,
Okay,
it will be.
so that's I think that's great. So that's kind of an example of why it matters to people because you're showing up and giving a resolution to a problem that's really important to people. Um, okay, so we have versatile ladies of style, Cheryl Roberts, leading women to rise with confidence, clarity, and God-given purpose. So, is this a styling company where you help people to select their style? Is that what the offering is? Can you tell me a little bit more?
No, actually, Versatile Ladies of Style is a social and pleasure club
Okay.
that I founded in 2007 here in New Orleans in the Seventh Ward area, and I do a lot of things with the club in regards to just giving back to the community. We model leadership through our faith, resilience. I create spaces for women that they can discover their voice, embrace their own worth. Live with their purpose and by challenging generational norms through empowerment and community service with spiritual guidance.
Okay, so you have your why it matters sounds like you're building community and you're giving people a voice, and you're giving people a sense of place, and you also have some leadership skills that are helping people to develop themselves in their lives. Is that kind of close?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's really you described your offering as like sort of like what do you if you were, Rouse's, what are you selling? And then why does it matter? Okay, well the impact is really kind of why it matters.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm reading a little bit through about art departments and having visual art leadership and scholarship and support and practice and helping people to get involved. It looks like with the art community is that do you say your name is Saskia? You're on mute. Can you unmute, Saskia?
Yes, Saskia, that is perfect. Thank
Okay.
you.
And then do you want to just tell us a little bit of why it matters? Like what's your one sentence why it matters?
Art matters because the visual arts matter because it's a form of communication that transcends all language and all culture. It's the great connector between humanity, cultures, people, our future, our past, what we want to say, and how we want to say it. It is the great. Um, it is one of the most perfect forms of understanding the value of people that are different than we are. The visual arts provides points of view other than our own for us to appreciate, engage in, and communicate with. And it's the path to our future. And with education departments and universities dropping this manner for understanding other aspects of community and culture, we're in great danger. And uh, there's a very important and vital need to preserve this kind of communication. It doesn't mean we all need to speak the visual arts form of Latin, but it means that we need to at least understand that, Loyola University is not burning all their pianos, but the visual arts, these techniques that could be sort of compared to, these sort of classical techniques of music or language or any other form of study, such as Latin, should not be dismissed, especially in a city as important as New Orleans to not just the United States, but to the entire world with preserving cultural communication.
So, Saskia, I love that description, and I think that goes a lot into your value statement of why there's an importance for visual arts. For this sort of 1 minute capture, I would ask you later this evening to put why it matters into one sentence. And what I think you're saying, and I do a lot of sort of brand translation, so I hope I get this close, but you're saying that your programming, why it matters, is that you're trying to preserve something that is falling away or in danger because of conditions that are happening. And that by promoting the arts for all the value statements that you just said, you're helping to keep it alive. And so that's where I'm kind of pulling into this simple version, because I think that sometimes helps people to understand. So we have a few more examples that are just read through. Thank you, Chanel and Aisha, for saying yours. And it seems like you have a pretty tight approach. So all of this information is going to be available to you afterwards as well. But these are just some thinking points as you're building your marketing plan. So I kind of threw out an example of a pretend saxophonist and what that person might offer and why it matters, because I wasn't sure if I would have as much feedback today, which is great. I love to hear live feedback and to actually talk to each of you. And this just kind of gives who is this person? What are they doing? Why does it matter that they are available? So you can read this more later. We had great real life examples, so we'll skip that. And then quick sheet of some Louisiana businesses, many of them that have cultural influences, who got their, who are we, what do I offer, and why does it matter? Right. Because they were able to connect and monetize and really turn their face and their name or their art into something. And so you'll recognize John Baptiste and Flirty Girl and Jose Bali. Even the Perlis Company is a Louisiana company that started small. Taj Williams and Amanda Shaw. And so thinking about these types of brands and assuming, because I'm pretty sure, that they really knew what they wanted to offer and what was going to work. And obviously, they probably tried a few things, but built thriving businesses based on their skill or craft or personality. And so that leads right into the audience portion, where we have to really think about who is the buyer for the product or service. And you have to take yourself out of sort of, in this part, pretend like you're not you and that you are a product or service that someone is just buying off of the internet or buying off of a shelf. And I've never met you before and I don't know what you do. And we're trying to make things as simple for people to understand as possible. And so in these questions, you have to pretend like it's someone you've never met before and that you don't know what they do. And so we're thinking about our product or service and what we offer to people, whether we're a juice company, whether we're a musician or visual artist, or we're a program that is selling sponsorships. Because even if you are a nonprofit, you're still selling a concept. And so we want to think about who or what buys your product or service. Why does it connect with them or serve them in some way? And I heard several of you in my chat to the side about the service part. And I think service is enormous. And so you are solving a problem and you are serving your customers. And then we want to maybe identify our target customer type. So is there a demographic type? Are people from a certain neighborhood or part of town our target? Is it, if I'm a musician, is it people who run event venues? Is it different retail stores because I do pottery and I want to be carried on 10 stores on Magazine Street? Who is the audience and customer that is purchasing from you? Where do they spend their time? What does their life look like? And what are their buying patterns? And so that is an audience sort of characterizing your audience. And I'll show you a little example in a second. And then we also want to talk about what your goals are for the first quarter of 2026. So that's the first 3 months of 2026. And we want to have I call it the mini marketing plan because it's miniature, of understanding your business, setting your metrics, doing some research, and then being able to track your progress. Because if you can take the year into little chunks, it's much more motivating and much more doable to hit your goals. So this is the portion of audience and goals, and I'm going to get a little more specific into this. So this is something that I grabbed off of HubSpot. So there's a link down there. But they basically have a pretend customer profile. This is sort of an imaginary person with some, and it can be a range, like an age range, locations. Maybe it's their income, maybe it's their career, maybe it's things they're interested in. If I'm a interior designer, it might be people who really love home decor. You know, you're trying to figure out what type of person your buyer is. And then this is a little buyer's journey that they have posted on the HubSpot page. Your discovery story, how'd they find you? What are the facts? How do you know why they use your products? How often do they use your products? What is sort of use case of the products? What potential pain points? So if you're the hair care company, you are really solving actual pain points. And so that's what your column would say. If you're doing something like selling beautiful paintings, pain isn't the same, but you're still solving an issue of, I have a home that I love, but I don't have the art that reflects me on my walls and it doesn't feel cozy and comfortable and personal. That's still a pain point, even though it's an emotional sort of problem to solve. And then what are the goals of the customer? Well, the goal of my customer is that I want their living room to be the most enjoyable, the most vibrant in color, and the most reminiscent of the vibe of New Orleans that anyone can have. And so if that's what your goal is for your customer, and you know the type of customer that buys your art, that makes perfect sense to them. And if you're a hair care company, your goal is that your customer has a head of hair that feels healthy and that they feel good about themselves and that you're helping them to reach their goals. So this is just something that you can kind of scribble out to think of your ideal customer. We probably have maybe 3 or 4 of these, and it's okay to have more than one. It just helps you to imagine in your head, who is the person that's buying from me? And then this is almost my favorite part of business planning because it's just in the numbers. And there are a million ways to plan for your business. And I am not a tax accountant or a legal professional, but what I do try to do in my business is set achievable metrics so that we know that we're on the right track. So this is what I would like for you to think about. What are 3 to 5 metrics that for just one quarter or month to month that you can think about so that you make sure you're staying consistent in whatever things you need to be doing to make your business go forwards. If you've never looked at this stuff before, here's some ideas to get started. This is not the end all be all, but it is a way to sort of track, is this a viable business? Is it working? What do I need to do? And so I just threw out, my pretend musician. My example metric is that I want to book 6 gigs in a month in order to reach $4,500 of revenue for each month. And these are made up numbers. So, It could be way higher or way lower. I don't know. It depends what kind of musician you are. But that could be, I want to sell 10 pieces of pottery. I want to get 5 more online orders. It can be whatever you're trying to track to get to the place that you're hitting your revenue numbers. Then the expense items, you might need to track how many expenses you have within the month to make sure that you're hitting profitability. So in this example, I threw out a few example expenses that a small business might have, and those include your website maintenance, maybe hiring a bookkeeper to help you, because I'm going to be honest, bookkeeping is not my most favorite part of my job. And a lot of creative people, it's just really boring. And it's important for you to understand it, but it's also okay to contract it out if it's not your cup of tea, so that you can focus on your own work, which is what I choose to do. If you have graphic design, or you're doing like event promotions, or you need to have handouts or print materials for your business, you might have print costs. And then I added some for office supplies. So in this pretend business, we're saying that expenses in the month are $1,560. And then we're going to try to save 20% for taxes, which is just a round number. And so if we're doing 6 gigs a month, we are profiting $2,628, which is the 58% profitability. And these things are important because they will help us to track how effective we're being. And it's giving us a checkpoint to come back to every month to see how our business is growing. What do we need to be doing? Do we need to cut expenses? Do we need more outreach in the month? Do we need less? Where can we track actual numbers to make sure we're getting to where we want to get to? So we would have our target, and then we would fill out our actual. I also added outreach phone calls, because you are selling yourself, no matter if you are a nonprofit or an artist or a musician or an Indian who's looking to have performances. And so connecting with your audience, however it is, maybe it's social media posts, maybe it's visiting event venues and telling them about yourself. Maybe it's doing a Facebook ad once a week or something, tracking whatever it is that's going to help you connect, which I will give you some ideas in a minute, but tracking how much time you're spending also is a metric that you can add to your sort of like dashboard, they call it, of making sure you're doing something to keep you moving every week. So this example is 6 bookings. Then I flipped it to 7 bookings to say, hey, if I made 7 bookings and my expenses stayed the same, what would the difference be? And so you'll see that the profitability goes up a little bit from 58% to 64%. And so these are just things that you can be thinking about as you're growing your business to say, are we getting to the point that $3,300 is enough for me? Maybe I work part-time someplace else. Maybe this is my only business. Maybe if I could figure out how to do 8 bookings a month, then I'm making enough money for me and my children to pay our rent or our mortgage. And so I'm trying to get with these very simple numbers to just figure out, is this working? Is it a viable business? What metrics do we need to be looking for? Because it might be that if I make 6 phone calls a week and I land half of those, then I've hit my goals for the month. And so this is just about thinking about goals and metrics so that you're moving in the right direction and that you're keeping yourself accountable. The next portion is going to be about building your marketing toolkit. And here are the basics that I think every business needs to start out with. Obviously, you have to have some funds to get some of these. You can do some of them yourself. You can trade services. There's lots of ways to do this. Setting up your social media profiles is free as long as you have your information fully filled out. So some of this is not a heavy cost, but we do suggest having a logo that is workable in a JPEG, a PNG format, which means that the background is transparent, so that you can lay it on top of things in Canva, or if you use design software, and then a PDF version of those. And then if you have the opportunity to have professional photos of yourself, especially if you have a product, like if you are an artist and you have a product, it is so much more visually appealing to have you with your instrument, or you with your beading, or you with your product, because people can connect the dots of who you are and what you do. I also have traded services for photography plenty of times. And so you don't always have to have cash to get things done. Sometimes you help me out, I help you out, and we both can win. And I always encourage small businesses to seek out partners to trade. Having your bio written. So that's kind of what some of you were explaining earlier. Like, who am I? What are we trying to do? Why does it matter? I kind of gave you a little bit of my bio in the beginning, just so that if you ever met me on the street, like I would hope that you feel like you know me enough to have a conversation. And that's kind of what your bio is. It's just a high level, maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs about your background and your experience and what you're doing. I mentioned social media profiles. I don't encourage people to just do every single one. I think that it really makes sense to think about where your audience is. For me, a lot of our buyers are on LinkedIn. So we focus a lot on thought leadership and articles and things we're writing on LinkedIn. But we have a staff now. So growing slowly over time, we've been able to add social media support. So we do participate in more social media channels because we're able to do that with more workforce. But if you are unable to do Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and LinkedIn, I would say pick the top 2 or so that your audience is purchasing from. If you are a clothing brand, like you probably should be on Instagram. If you are selling a business to business, which we call B2B, which we are, then if I'm trying to sell to you guys and your business owners, then you might find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. If your audience is really young, then you might want to be more on TikTok or Instagram. So there's not like one cliche about 100% this works or 100% this works. It's kind of about feeling the vibe, seeing where other brands like yours are showing up, and then trying a few things. And a lot of this is just trial and error. I really like a one pager, which is just like a front side or a front and a back of a digital brochure. If you're selling in person, you might need something to actually hand out. And then by all means, if you can get it done, get a website or a landing page, because people really do want to find you online. And so the questions I would ask is, do you have the basics done? Can I find you if I want to? Do I understand who you are and what you do? Did you confuse me in the process? Like, is it confusing to figure out if you have packages I can buy, or like, is there a price structure? And so if you confuse people, then it gets very tricky to sell to them. So I always kind of ask, like, is it clear how someone can engage with you? Do I know how to get in touch with you? Do you tell me to buy this thing from me, click here, or to have a consultation from, I think it's from CPC Visuals. If you need a consultation from them, you need to fill out this form to get your consultation started. How do you want them to engage with you? And what's the process to do that? Make it very clear. And then, is it easy to buy from you? I don't know if anyone's ever had this where you like see an ad on social media or something, you click on something to buy a product. And then it's like not the product you were looking at, or brings you to some like weird website that maybe wasn't what you thought it was, or maybe it's not exactly the product because like something is weird in their links. And then they sort of lose you because you think that's not really what I wanted. And so you don't want to have a process where people can't figure out how to buy from you. You want it to be like dummy proof, here's what it is. I want you to be able to show up, meet me, get all the information, not be confused, and then buy from me. And so that's kind of the checkpoint that after you have your basics, you should ask a few people, can you find this? Does it explain to you what I do? Was anything confusing about it? When you click through my website, could you figure out how to call me? And so these are all just things we want to be aware of so that we make it as easy as possible for people. The art of storytelling is really show me who you are, let me get to know you. People want to know the person behind the business. And so being authentic and being consistent in whatever you're doing, if you're doing in-person visits, if you're doing social media, if you're doing email campaigns, if you're, having pop-up shops, whatever it is you're doing, having consistency shows people that you're there and that they can trust you and that you'll continue to be there. Asking for followers is totally okay. Hey, I have a new business. I'd really love for you to follow me. The behind the scenes and the day in the life on social media is like bizarrely interesting to people. And I don't know if anyone in the room has experienced this at all, but when we post videos of our team doing something, just like behind the scenes and work, that's where we get the most impressions on LinkedIn, like some ridiculous tenfold amount. And so I grabbed this one just because it's kind of funny, but we had a super small, just the 5 of us, ribbon cutting at our new office just so we could celebrate. And then we had a meeting after. And we normally get like between 150 and 250 impressions on LinkedIn, which isn't huge, but I guess people are seeing some of it. And then this one, as you could see, got 2,500 impressions. And I really don't know why, except that people commented on it and told us congrats and just like can see what we're doing. And it's a video, which I think is always more interesting to people. But I just wanted you to see that something really simple can get a lot more attention than you think. And so being able to explain what you do and why you're special and demonstrating your product or service or giving little tips about it, you'll see a lot with like the beauty industry, especially like on TikTok, people are demonstrating things because day in the life stuff and behind the scenes really, really works, especially if you can pull video into that. I really like drip campaigns where you do like a beginning, a middle, and then end. And so that could be, a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday campaign or every other day or something where you're building a little story, because people are always more captivated by storytelling than just like, here's an ad, go buy my thing. And so trying to think outside the box with that is really helpful. You can also collaborate and cross promote. So having 2 brands that are working together. So if there's a musician and a t-shirt brand and they want to sing a song while they're wearing some unique clothing, and then tag both of the entities and then try to get audiences on both sides to engage with, that is a really good way to grow followership and also to show like people that you're just interested in life. It's kind of a good way to just share some love and collaborate with people. I'm talking a lot about social media right now because it's a really easy way to do storytelling, but there's more than just social. We encourage people to batch content, which means spend 1 day a week planning out your content for the week. Make sure it's on a business page, not on your personal page. And say, okay, if I want to try to do 3 posts this week, you can preset as much as possible so that it goes out, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever is making the most sense for your audience, which you can use the insights to see, because number 1, it helps you build that consistency. And number 2, you don't have to think about it every single day. And so that's helpful to just make sure that you're having the consistency that you want. And then of course, reviewing insights and analytics. So every now and then, we just kind of go back and say, what worked this week for us? And I would definitely encourage you all to go follow our social channels. And I'll have my LinkedIn at the end too, so you can connect with me. But having people know what we're up to and what we're doing and what kind of people we are and the kind of work we're doing and giving some amount of personality to our brand is what I think makes the difference in being approachable and being liked and being sought after. There's a saying that people buy from who they like, know, and trust. And so if you can be likable, you can be someone they can get to know, and you can be someone that they trust, then you're more than halfway there. So we are trying every day to be likable, knowable, and trustworthy. And then that really...
I'm sorry, Rachel. We
Sure.
had a question specific about social media, and I didn't want you to move forward. I see Chanel in the chat had asked, and it's regarding the bullet point on ask for followers. Regarding the followers, do you recommend sending DMs or other methods?
I think any way that you can connect is great. So for example, and this might help you figure this out. So we just launched a new podcast that's all about economic development, and it was a big project and we were super excited. And so like in the social, like in LinkedIn where I announced it, I also like side texted 10 or 20 of my business friends, like, hey, I'm announcing this on LinkedIn. Can you go and like it and interact with it right now? So I like straight up told people, I need you to go like this right now. You can definitely DM like brands. We've done that before where we were talking to other business owners through Instagram. If you go onto our podcast, we did an episode, I think it was the second or third one, and it was with a color analyst, which is like kind of all the rage right now, where they like do all the color drapes on you. It was a really fun experience. And I saw her through Instagram through a friend of mine who also did it. And so I messaged her and said, she was in Baton Rouge, but I just kind of liked her vibe. I liked her video. And so I just said, hey, I'm a business owner. I'm in New Orleans. I'd like to come do this color analyst. Do you ever do like cross brand stuff where we could promote each other? And so she's like, yes, call me. And so I said, great. I want to know more about it. Like, what is the package? How does this work? And so she was like, hey, if you like share my services on your social channels, I'll give you a discount on the service. I was like, absolutely. Because I've already mentioned that I'm all about the trade. And so we talked about it, and it was just from DMing her on, on the channels. And so now, of course, she follows me back and she tagged me in all of her stuff. And so sometimes it's just reaching out to people. If you are trying to get followers, you can also run like small advertising on Facebook. I mean, you can spend like $20 if you want and try to get followers. TikTok is something that I'm like not a super TikTok person. I think I'm a little too old for TikTok, but I get that it has a lot of value as far as like just telling people about brands. And so I have another project that I'm working on. My husband and I have another business, and we're building a senior residence home in Mandeville, which is unrelated to 3090. But because we're in a construction process, I've been sort of just like telling the story about what's happening, because my hope is that my brand is big enough in 6 to 9 months when we open that I get leads sort of organically and I don't have to pay for leads. And so what I'm doing with that is just trying to put updates of things that are happening. I think about people like painters who have this progress of something and like it doesn't look like something and then it does look like something and then it's finished. And I watch that stuff all the time. It's fascinating to me. And so if you have a business where there's like a beginning, a middle, and an end, by all means, you should be posting that. And I tell you this because one day I put $27 behind a TikTok post, and the way that they do their advertising platform, it was super easy, did it all on my phone. You could pay $27 and open it up to an age range within the state. It would not let me pull it as tight as zip codes, which Meta does let you do. And so within a day, I think it was one day, there was 4,000 views on this one post. And I thought, well, that is so interesting because that doesn't mean everyone watched the whole video, but it went in front of 4,000 people. And so, for $27, that's pretty good. And some people followed. And so that's a little bit weird. And I don't necessarily think that that would work great for 3090 marketing. But for us getting a brand name out for that business and just having people know about it and be kind of interested in it, I do think it worked. And so that's where your social media has to be right for your business type. So like, I think it was Chanel, she has businesses and individuals as her clientele. So on her corporate branding side, like she might want to be heavier on LinkedIn, but on her like individual person side where she's using visuals and doing customized artwork, like she should probably be on Instagram and TikTok and maybe even YouTube talking about things, because people kind of consume things in their lives a little differently sometimes. And so it really is about where you think people will be. And literally sometimes just asking people, especially if you had like a pop-up shop or something, or you're at like a art fair, I would straight up ask people, hey, I'm really trying to grow my followers. Do you mind following us on Instagram right now? I mean, I just ask everyone for everything. So does that kind of answer a little bit about different ways that you can ask for followers.
Yes, it does.
Um,
Thank you.
okay. There's no like right way, wrong way. A lot of this is just like things we've tried over time. And the worst thing is people are like, no, thanks, don't want to. And you're like, okay, have a nice
Right.
day, but some people even do things, I'm sure you've seen this because you get targeted from all the time, but like, hey, if you, like this post and tag 3 friends, you can win a candle or something.
Right, I've seen that.
That's where they're like just trying to get people to, and I don't usually do them unless my friend like tags me in some, here's a diamond bracelet. If you like this, you could win it. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll do that one for some really high end thing.
Right.
But I think the more you're telling your story, the easier it is for people to get on board with that.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so I basically have a bunch of just sort of like notebook things in this QR code. It's also, so if you wanted to, you could scan it with your phone. But it's also on our 3090 marketing website under the blog section. And it's just like a little worksheet that just kind of goes through some of these things that kind of can get you thinking about what are some of the marketing tools I could use. There's a few listed on there. What should I be thinking about? What's my one-liner? And so sometimes I just went to a session in Austin last week that was all for marketing agencies. And I teach strategy to my clients, but I was in a strategy session for me. And just having a workbook to write ideas in, even though I know this stuff, was really impactful for me because sometimes it's just sitting down and like thinking about like, where are we now? Or do we want to be? How do we want to get there? What should we be tracking? And so even if you're amazing at these things, you should still be checking in with yourself, maybe monthly, maybe once a quarter, because like life changes, things change, the economy changes, there's all these different things that can happen. And so even for me, I think looking at these little worksheets can be really helpful. Actually, this is it. This is my workbook that I can show it to you. And in it, like there's like all these like strategy documents. And we went through for our own companies and kind of said, what do we want to end up doing? How do we want to get there? So hopefully that worksheet helps you. It is on our website. And I can also send this to Lisa and Clairvay and the team if they want to share it. And then if you want to get in touch with me, my email is super easy. It's just Rachel at 3090 marketing. 3090 is the longitude, latitude of New Orleans. And when I was naming my business, I knew that I wanted it to sound like a place on the map or something kind of technical because a lot of our clients are in technical fields. And I wanted it to have a nod towards New Orleans because of grown up in and around New Orleans my whole life. And so that is the reason for the name. Some people ask me what 3090 means, but that is what it means. And our website's 3090marketing.com. And my LinkedIn is just Rachel Ledet 3090. So that's kind of the end of the presentation part.